resources today, and that is the topic of discussion. I want to believe everyone in this class is familiar with the concepts that we have on the screen. The concept, natural resources. The truth of the matter is, most discussions around natural resources centers around the management of these resources, judicious use of these resources, not just the exploration of these resources. And for the purpose of this course, environment and sustainable development, when you are talking about natural resources, we are not just looking at these natural resources, we are also looking at the management and the use of these resources for sustainable development. Because the truth of the matter is, there is a way you make use of natural resources that will not be sustainable. There is a way that you explore these natural resources that will lead to environmental degradation and that will cause problems for people in the society. And there is another way you manage these resources and everything will be in the proper order. And that is why we are taking a look at that in this course. By definition, natural resources refers to those materials, those things that are not man-made. They are endowed by virtue of creation. That means you and I are not the persons that created these natural resources. We did not design it. We met it here. It has been here for a long period of time. And if you take a look at the series of definitions that we have on the board, we discover that some of these has to do with biological, mineral, and aesthetic assets afforded by nature without human intervention. So it simply means that these resources that we're talking about, they are not man-made. And these natural resources, they exist in raw form, okay? And you have to extract, and sometimes you have to process some of these resources before you can enjoy the value that that particular natural resources that you're talking about carries. For example, if you see gold in the raw form, you can't use it as earring, you can't use it on your wrist or your ankle. You have to do something about it. If you come across crude oil, you won't even know that this thing is capable of producing petrol, kerosene, and so on and so forth. In the raw form, it has to be refined, it has to be processed before you can make use of it in the right way. And that is why we are saying that they are raw, okay, and they are natural to the extent that we are not the one that created or designed or that planted these things in various environments where you will find them. And some of these can be found in rivers and underneath the sea. You can find some underneath the earth's surface, most especially when you dig into the rock or you dig under the land where we find ourselves. And it is interesting to know that this exists within the environment in which we find ourselves. Remember that the course is environment and sustainable development. This next slide also contains a series of definitions with respect to natural resources. And here you will understand that some of these resources that we're talking about can be seen as renewable and some are not renewable. There are some of these resources that are renewable, there are some that are not renewable. When you are talking about renewable resources, we are talking about those ones that can be replenished, such that when you make use of it, you can get it back, you can reproduce it. We can talk about the ones that has to do with plants. When you cut a tree, which is a forest resources, which is an example of natural resources, you can as well plant another one. Of course, there is a group that will work on tree planting. That means that we can plant trees, even though the ones that were there before now were not the ones that we planted. We made some of these trees here, but we have been able to understand the process of planting some of these trees and plants or other crops that we have in the environment. The same thing is also applicable to animals. Yes, we cannot create animals as human beings, but you understand that scientists, most especially those of them that are into genetics, they've been able over time to master the act of crossbreeding some of these animals, such that you can have a local dog, for example, and then you crossbreed that local dog with a foreign dog, and the puppy that will come out of that crossbreeding will not totally look like a local dog, will not totally look like a foreign dog, okay? And the same thing is applicable to some of these plants, some of these crops, some of these trees that we're talking about. For example, in the last 50 years, if you want to plant mango, the real mango that we met in the world here, you cannot plant it this year and you start reaping the fruits next year. It's not possible. For the wild mango, the old one, and that one will have to grow so tall so that if you want to pluck it, you either climb or you get a long pole that you use to pluck it. But today, with science, we have some improved seedlings today, such that you can plant your mango this year, and by next year you start getting fruit from some of these variants that we have. And for most of them, they will not even grow as tall as the ones that you have to climb. For some of them, you can't even climb because they are not strong enough to get your weight. Please, it's not strong enough for you to get your weight on it. You just stand and then you use your hand to pluck it. And that's the case with some of these resources that are renewable. There are some other ones that are non-renewable that you cannot get again once you make use of that, most especially the ones that you extract. For example, if we have gold in this class and you begin to dig, once you are removing and you are removing and you are getting it out and you are extracting, it won't continue forever. The ones you have taken will not grow back again, okay? Once you take it, that's the end of that one. So those ones are seen as natural resources that are not renewable. There is another way of looking at these natural resources in terms of whether it is biotic or abiotic. The biotic ones are derived from organic materials like plants and animals, from the word bio, B-I-O. And you understand that when you are talking about fossil fuels, for instance, from where you get your crude oil, some persons will tell you that this is a product of the decayed organic materials that happened a long time ago, okay? And that is what the biotic ones revolve around. Then the abiotic ones are the non-living and non-organic resources, talking about water, talking about rock, talking about soil, metals, and other minerals found on Earth. And then we can also look at the classification of natural resources in terms of their stage of development. There are some that can be seen as actual resources. They have been identified, measured, and they are ready to be utilized. And there are some other ones that are potential resources. They are just there. They are not yet ready for use. The actual ones are the ones that has been identified and that are ready to be used at this moment. They will be measured. For example, if you discover crude oil in this class, extraction and refining will not just start immediately. They will have to do an estimate to know the amount, whether it is viable, sustainable or not, because you need a lot of investments for you to extract it, for you to refine it. So if the quantity of crude available in this class is not enough to offset the investment that the exploration will involve, then you won't even bother. But if the quantity that is available is enough to take care of the investment that you use in the exploration, and then in the next 20, 50 years, you'll still be getting crude from that place, then you invest in it and then you start the process of exploration. So for those ones, they are actual resources, but the potential ones are the ones that are just there. In physics, you talk about kinetic energy, you talk about potential energy. The kinetic one is the one in motion, the one that you are making use of. The potential one is the one that is just there, that you are not yet making use of at the moment. Those girls at the back, you have to be careful. I've been looking at you over and over again, and you are not looking at me just because your mind is not here. Okay? In my mind, I've warned you like 5 times. Okay? Now we have the next classification here that has to do with renewable resources and non-renewable resources that I've mentioned earlier, and there is no point overflogging that. We have quite a number of examples of these resources here with respect to the ones that are renewable and those ones that are non-renewable. Let's take a look at the renewable energy resources. We have solar energy. Miriam, what do you understand by solar energy? Miriam, international relations. Solar energy, what is that all about? Yes. Okay, the energy from the sun. The next one there is wind energy. We all know what the wind is all about, and you can use this wind to propel turbines, propel some things that look like fans, but they are not fans. The very moment this thing is running, then it will convert energy from one form to another form. We have geothermal energy. Geothermal energy. Is there anybody that knows what geothermal energy is all about? Yes? Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy. You must have heard before now that you can tap energy even from under the ground. Okay? I've seen a video on TikTok or online where somebody connected wire to 2 stones and then planted it underneath the ground and used it to power this energy saving bulb in his room. So the heat energy under there, you can convert it, and they are making use of it in some countries. Oh, not necessarily stone. You can even connect your wire to that place. It will generate heat. Yes, you can do practical, and that's why I said a group that will work on solar energy will even build it. So you can as well come up with yours. Just that some of us are not inquisitive enough. All these little practicals, you ought to have done it even while you are growing up. That you just want to see what the end result of this thing will be at the end of the day, and do a lot of things. The same thing is responsible for water. We talk about hydropower in Nigeria, like the one we get from Kanji Dam. It is that water that will propel turbine, and at the end of the day, it will be converted to electrical energy. The one here, number 5, is also similar to what we have in number 2. Then we talk about soil, okay, renewable resources. Yes, you continue to have that land constantly, but you can renew it, okay, in terms of the fact that you can replenish the nutrients in the soil. In agriculture, we talk about crop rotation, that when you plant maize this year, this farming season, next farming season, what will you plant? Under crop rotation. Or we don't have agri students here. Yes, you can plant groundnut, you can plant beans. Those ones will replenish the nutrients. You can't plant maize here this year and plant rice or millet or sorghum next year. You destroy the viability of that soil. Okay. Then we have biomass, we have biofuel. You must have heard before now that you can generate electricity or energy from peels of cassava peels of cassava, even from your poo, that's feces. Okay? We are complaining about electricity in Nigeria, and a lot of us, we have very big sock away at the back of our house, our building, and we are not making use of it. Okay? So you can get home, you can start with that, open the sock away and see how you can convert that to electricity. Okay, then we have those ones that are non-renewable. We talk about coal, talking about coal. Now, coal is of different forms. Coal is of different forms. Tell me the ones you know. Charcoal, you get charcoal from where? From firewood. Is that the only one? Is it only firewood that you get charcoal from? The ones that they are selling in bags, they will cut a tree and then they will cover it with what? With sand. Are you not aware that for you to get that charcoal, the one that you use in your coal pot, you cut a tree. When you cut it down, you use soil to cover it and set fire on it. And then at the end of the day, you break it into smaller sizes that you now bag. But apart from that, there is another coal that you extract from the rock, okay, that you dig and you extract. For example, no, that one is not coal tar. The one I'm talking about now is not coal tar. Okay, the one that you extract, that's the one you get in a place like Enugu. You know, for every state in Nigeria, they have their slogan. We talk about the coal state. Okay, that's Enugu. And for those of you that like seeing old movies, you understand that in the past, most of the trains or locomotive engines that we had at that point in time, they were powered. Sumaya, who is that person next to you? Stand up, let me see your face. No, the next person to you, black veil or something. Let me see your face. After you, last one. Okay? Now, I'm talking about locomotive engines that in the past, they use this coal for them. Instead of you making use of petrol or kerosene or these ones that we're using, there's a compartment here where you pack coals and set it on fire. Then that heat energy will be converted to mechanical energy, and the train or the ship will be moving. And as it's burning out, you reload, okay? But now we have better ways of doing all that. We talk about oil, we talk about uranium, gold, aluminum, sand, and so on and so forth. For each of the items on the board, try as much as possible to know what they mean, the meaning of that, where this can be seen, how it can be extracted, and what you can convert it to. It is an assignment that you are not going to submit. That's why you have everything there as an assignment. Okay, look for it, know where you can find them in Nigeria, what they are used for, and so on and so forth. If you like, you can do it, and if you like, you may leave it. Let's move on to types of natural resources. Types of natural resources. We have forest resources. We have wildlife, we have water resources, we have mineral resources, we have food resources, energy resources, land resources, sun, air. All these are different types of natural resources. And you can see images representing these right here. Now that we know what these resources are, then we can talk about the role of individuals in the conservation of these natural resources. Okay, the roles of individuals in the conservation of natural resources. We all have roles to play in conserving these natural resources. What is conservation all about? Preserving something, okay, such that some of these things will not end, will not go into extinction. That is what conservation is all about. And for us to conserve these resources, we will take the resources one after the other and talk about ways of conserving them. For example, if you are taking the forest resources, you can conserve that by ensuring that you don't just cut trees anyhow. And when you cut these trees, you plant all over again. You can talk about wildlife, conservation of wildlife in terms of lions, elephants, and all that you should not kill them. Okay, in some countries, even when you have a snake inside your room, you are not expected to kill the snake. You are expected to run away and go and call the authorities to come and do something about it. If you try to kill it, you are in trouble. You go to court. Okay, so these are ways of conserving these resources. You can imagine what will happen if tomorrow our children don't really know what snakes looks like. Ordinary mosquito, they don't know what mosquito looks like. That would be very bad. Okay? So we are trying to protect and preserve this so that incoming generation, future generation will still see some of these things. For them to know what it looks like. They will see it on the phone. Are you happy that you are only seeing dragon in movies now? Yes. Okay, and a lot of those things that we just see in cartoons. You want to see it in real life, you want to feel it, if possible. Okay, so let's protect the ones that we have for our children so they can see them. And I'm going to stop at this point. I'm stopping at this point. These two seats in front.